All right, Rabbi Isai, we learn. I will tell you, Ben Kesel Aser. The days between Yom Kippur and Sukkot are very, very special days. They're very holy days, and it's wonderful to be learning with you. To be mekayim the mitzvah v'dibar tabam, la'aseh isnachas ruach liyitzreinu, and we learn for Esther Basioni, Yaakov Chaim Ben Abba, Avram Ben Shmuel HaKohen, sponsored by Baruch Ian. Also for Baruch Shlomo Ben Lina, you should have a refuah shlema by Aaron Swade, Lila Nishmas Chaim Bas Shmuel, and his sister Freda Bas Shol, for Shimon Deer, for the Chayli Adaf, Mark Frankel, for Shlema for Miriam Sar Bas Tzipora, Chana Bas Gittel Esther, Beirich Goldwasser, Akar Satay, for what Hashem did for his family and for the Chayli Yisrael. We learned from my Shver, Avigdor Aryeh Ben Rivka, Yudisir Bas Miriam, and Meir Ben Chayesara. They should have a refuah shalema b'seich shechar Yisrael. We welcome in Mel Zachter, Shalom Fogel. We wish him a Gmach Simatayva. Good to see you, Shalom. Yitzimala, Harrison Kletzel, Irving Fishbaum, Baruch Ian, Shimon Klein, Aaron Swade, Shai Astrov, Marshall Castle, and his hot dogs, Mark Frankel, Menachem Yamansky, Dr. Black, Ruvain Pollack, Gmach Simatayva, Stephen Holtzman, Michal, Nachman Chapler, Shelley Zeitlin, Avram Schenkman, Moshe Lehman, Naftali Jablin. I think that's probably Berish Gesseman, Rabbi Kranz, and here in Shul we have Reb Kramer. Good to have you back. Machsim Matayva, Rich Lenner. We have Dalia Engel, Baruch Weber, Saba, and I forgot your first name. Reb Shlomi Yehuda. Really good to have you, and it's really nice to see so many people here in the shul live for a little bit of a challenging daf. Reb Yochanan had said,
where are you holding?
We're holding on the bottom line of Mem Gimel Amid Beis. Bottom line, Mem Gimel Amid Beis. Baruch, would you find it easier to hear me if you sat over here?
I hear you.
You hear me fine. Okay.
Yeah, we're good. Thank you.
So we said that according to the Rabbi Yochanan, according to the Rabbanan, so we said that when it comes to the divorce of a Nara, so when she gets divorced, she comes back to the father's rishus, and therefore it makes sense that she could also do it because she's coming back to the father. But Kiddushin, where she exits from the father, there the Rabbanan hold only the father could do it and not her. I guess we could back up and say that inside. That would be 5 lines from the bottom of Mem Gimel Mem Beis. My time at Rabbi Yochanan leave the Rabbanan. Gerushin, divorce, the machneses atzma l'rishus aviyah. She's coming back into the father's control. So bein here, bein aviyah. It could be done by her and by the father because the father is happy with it. Kiddushin, but the Kiddushin where she leaves the father and the father has rights over her, right? So, and she's leaving the father. Kiddushin, the mafkas atzma l'rishus aviyah. Aviyah, only the father could do it, v'lohi. So the Gemara says, but we got a problem. Because by Maimer, now Maimer is the Kiddushin of a Yavama. Let's refresh everybody what that means. If Reuven was married to Sarah and Reuven dies, right? So Shimon could be Miyabim Sarah. Before he does Yibam, he could make a Maimer, which is the Kiddushin of the Yavama, as we welcome in Richard Rosenzweig. Good evening. So let's say that Sarah was Reuven married Sarah, and when Reuven died, Sarah was a Nara. So the din is that she can accept her own mimer without our father. But that's strange. Vare mimer the mafkas atzma rishus avia. She's going out of the rishus of the father. V'tanan, it says katana mina erisin, a minor from erisin, ein oisim ba mimer. The Yavam could only make a mimer. That means if she was married to Ruvain as a minor, and she was only engaged, she was only an arusa, and Ruvain dies, so Shimon can only make a mimer with the father, Elamadas Avia. But Vanara, but if Sarah was a maiden and her Oris died, Ruvain died, Beimedas Atzma, Beimedas Avia, she could have a mimer done whether it is with her das or with the father. But why? She's going out from the rishus of the father. Why should she be able to effect the mimer without the father? Rather, we're going to have to tweak the svara. Elai itmar haki itmar. If we say something, we say as follows. Elai itmar haki itmar. If we're going to say something, we're going to say an explanation as follows. Amr Reb Yosi, Reb Chanina, my time in Reb Yochanan, Aliv de Rabbanan. What's the reason of Reb Yochanan, according to the Rabbanan, that by a get, a Nara or her father could accept it, but by Kiddushin, only the father could do it? I'll tell you, simple. Gerishin de Bal Karcha, since it's against her will, so therefore we don't need the approval from the woman's side. So therefore, bein hi bein avia, it could be done both by her and by the father. Kiddushin, the medata, Kiddushin, where we need the approval of the woman, and since she's under control of the father, avia v'lohi, it's the father and not her. Gerishin, the Bal Karcha, which she's not really a participant, because the husband could do it without the approval from the woman's side, so therefore it makes no difference. Bein hi, bein avia. It could be done both by her or by the father. Says the Gemara, but then we're back to square one again. But mimer, hare mimer de medaita. Mimer, you need her approval. Shimon could only give the mimer with her approval, and yet it says that she could do it too. V'kitani bein hi, bein avia. Says the Gemara, no, it's going according to the opinion of Rebbe that Yovam, Shimon, could make a mimer without her approval. Hasam a mimer de Bal Karcha, a mimer could be done without her approval, and that's why we don't need the father. V'Rebbehi, and it's the opinion of Rebbe. The Tanya ha'isa mimer b'yavimtai, when Shimon makes a mimer with Sarah, shaloi midaita, and he did it without her approval. Rebbe Yamakana, Rebbe says he still acquires her. Now Rebbe basically says, well, just like Yibam could be done against her will, so the Kedusha Yavamim could be done against her will as well, as the Gemara explains. My time at the Rebbe, what's the reason of Rebbe? Gomer Mebia di Yavama. It says, Yibma Bal Karcha, Ma Bia di Yavama Bal Karcha, just like the Bia of Yavama is against her will. Afachanami Bal Karcha. The Rabbanan, on the other hand, say, since Mimer is Kiddushin, we compare it to Kiddushin. Rabbanan Savra Yalfina Kiddushin. Ma Kiddushin the Medata, you can only be Mekadosh a woman with her approval, with her consent. Afachanami, so Mimer, which is a type of Kiddushin, it's Kiddusha Yavamim, the Medata. Now, B'mai Kamiflagi, what are Rebbe and the Rabbanan arguing? Why does Rebbe say we compare it to the act of Yibam, while the Rabbanan say we compare it to regular Kiddushin? Well, it's a very logical machloikas. Rebbe Savar, Milei Diyavama, Miyavama Avalei Lamelech. We'd rather learn one element of Yibam from another element of Yibam. So we learn out the mimer of Yavamim from the Bia of Yibam. Just like Bia of Yibam could be without her consent, so also the mimer could be without her consent. While the Rabbanan said, I'd rather learn out Kiddushin from Kiddushin. Since mimer is the Kiddusha Yavamin, I'd rather Rabbanan separate Kiddushin with Kiddushin Avilei Lamelech. And the Gemara says, Hachinami mistavra. it is reasonable that the opinion of that mimer is because it's against her will, but by Kiddushin, where you need our consent, it could only be the father. It makes sense, because if you looked at 3 lines from the top of the Amud, it had in parentheses, Masha and came by Kiddushin. Mistavra K'diktoritz Rabbi Yochanan, it's Mistavra that the explanation is how Rabbi Yochanan interpreted it, that by Kiddushin, where you need our consent, then it's only the father and not her. Midiktani Seifa Masha and came by Kiddushin. It's only by Kiddushin, it's only by Maimer that it could be done with her, since it could be done against her will. So therefore it makes no difference if it's a father or her, because we see that we don't need the woman's side. But by Kiddushin, where we do, and since she's in the rishus of the father, it can only be done by the father. Says the Gemara, Elanema tahave tiyufta de Reish Lakish. Let's say that this should be a refutation of Reish Lakish, because Reish Lakish says by Kiddushin also, the Nara could accept the Kiddushin besides the father. And here it says, Masha Enkem Kiddushin, that by Kiddushin it's only the father. That seems to be a refutation of Reish Lakish. Says Reish Lakish, no, it's not a refutation. That's going according to Rabbi Yehuda. We know, we learned in the Mishnah that Rabbi Yehuda holds you can't have 2 people be Zaycha Ke'echad. It can only be one person. So therefore it's only the father. Amalach Reish Lakish Hamani Rabbi Yehudi. That's going according to Rabbi Yehuda. The Amar Ein Shtei Yadayim Zaychas Ke'achas. You can't have 2 people in control at the same time. So since the father is in control, Benurah Beisavia, she can't be. Says the Gemara, but Rabbi Yehuda, if it's going according to Rabbi Yehuda, what do you mean Masha Ein Kain B'Kiddushin? According to Rabbi Yehuda, she can't accept her get either. It should say even Masha Ein Kain B'Gerishim Abayilei. Not only by Kiddushin, but even by get, she can't accept. Only the father could accept it. Says the Gemara Nachanami, you're right. It's that way also by get. But since we're talking about Yibam, and Yibam is a type of Kiddushin, we contrast it to regular Kiddushin. I did the Tani Maimer, the Dami le Kiddushin, Tani Nami Mashen Kim Kiddushin. But Nami, according to Rabbi Yehuda, it's the same thing by get, that only the father can accept it and not her as well. So the Gemara says, then why, according to Rabbi Yehuda, by Maimer, can she accept the Maimer? Rabbi Yehuda Maishna Maimer. By Maimer we say, you tell me you can't have Shtei Yadayim Zoiches Ke'achas. So then why by Maimer it's different, that she could accept the Maimer when she's a Naira? Says the Gemara, no, Maimer is different. Because there's already a biblical levirate attachment. As soon as Ruvain dies childless, Sarah is attached with Shimon through Zika, through that levirate attachment, through that magnetism of Yibam. Oh, because of that, that's why even she can accept the Maimer. Says the Gemara, then we didn't have to do this whole song and dance over here. We didn't have any question you asked. According to Rabbi Yochanan, Rabbi Yochanan says that the original explanation of Rabbi Yochanan, according to Rabbanan, that Kiddushin is different because since you need her das, so only the father could do it. So then, by Maimer, where you need her das, why can she do it? That's not a question now, because we'll say the reason why she could do it is there is already a biblical zika. It wouldn't be a question all the way from the beginning. Shani Maimer is different. There was already a levirate attachment, and that's why she could accept it without the father. Now, this was a very difficult Gemara, so I'll entertain any questions if anybody has them. Okay.
We're all ready for the Bechina.
Okay. How was the Frank?
Wonderful.
Yeah. All right. I hope you were might see me.
100%.
Okay. Now, remember, Rabbi Yehuda holds that she can accept her get, she can accept her Kiddushin when she's a Nara. Tanan, ho ish mekadosh es bita kishi Nara. Our Mishnah says the father could be mekadosh his daughter when she's a Nara, which is from 12 years old and 1 day, by himself ubishluchai. Or he could have an agent accept Kiddushin on behalf of his daughter. Now here's a big kasha on Reish Lakish, because the Mishnah seems to say boy ubishluchai, him and his agent, in ba ubishluchai light, but she and her agent not. So, but Reish Lakish says that she can accept it. Why does it say exclusively him and his shliach? To Yufta de Reish Lakish, this would seem to be a refutation of Reish Lakish. Says the Gemara, Reish Lakish will say again, our Mishnah is going according to Rabbi Yehuda. We know that that's the opinion of Rabbi Yehuda. We know that Rabbi Yehuda says that Ein shtei yadayim zoiches kacha. So our Mishnah that says Bayu b'shluchai, only the father but not her, is going according to Rabbi Yehuda. Says the Gemara, Mi matzis mukmis laka Rabbi Yehuda. Can you say that our Mishnah is going according to the opinion of Rabbi Yehuda? So now the Gemara is going to take us into a new sugya. A man says, this is a real sport. He's a real sport. He's being mekadosh his wife. He didn't buy a ring. He has a new spin on what it means to have a date with your wife. He's being mekadosh with a date. What a romantic. Right? Forget about he takes out of the velvet sack. And what does he have? He says, look at his date. Right? So
It depends how old she is. She might need it.
I knew you would understand it. Scotchily, we're going to ask Mrs. Marshall. She got a marble. Says the Gemara.
She got a bag of nuts. That's me.
Yeah. She would have been better off with the marble. Anyway.
Just for that, I'm gonna leave.
All right. It took me so long. Anyway, no more leaving, Marshall. You left already enough. So, what happens over here is Marshall says to Sarala, Hiskachili with this date. He gives her a date. And then he says, Hiskachili with this date. Now, if the first date wasn't worth a pruta, and the second date wasn't worth a pruta, there's no Kiddushin. Why? Why don't you say they combine? Together, the two dates, even cheapy over here, together the two dates was a pruta. But because he said his skachi twice, each one is a separate Kiddushin, so they can't be combined. They can't be combined. So let's see it inside. Vakatani seifa imar isha hiskachli b'tmarazu. He says, "Be mekudeshes to me with this date." Hiskachli b'zu, and then he says, "Be mekudeshes to me with this date." We say that if each date was not a shava pruta, she's not mekudeshes. They don't combine. Now, if he would say just hiskachli b'zu, and then bezu, the implication is that they would combine. It's only because he said the term hiskachi twice. V'amrinan man tana hiskachi. Who is the author of the opinion that you have to say hiskachi twice in order to split them up? V'amar Rabba Rab Shimon he. It's going according to Rab Shimon. Now this takes us to another case. The din is if Marshall has deposits from Mark, Aaron, Dr. Block, and Ruvain. And when they come to collect, Marshall says, Shvua that I don't have Marks, and Shvua that I don't have Dr. Blocks, and Shvua that I don't have Aaron's, and Shvua that I don't have Ruvain's. He's chayev a carbon oshim for each lie. That's a lot of karbanos. It's going to send him back at least 4 cars. But if he would have said just shvua, I don't have Marks, I don't have Dr. Blocks, I don't have Aaron's, I don't have Ruvain's, he would only be chayev 1 oshim. So that which we say that you have to say hiskachi by each one is going according to Reb Shimon. The Reb Shimoni, the Amachi Yomi Shvul Kol Echad Ve'echad. So you see that the end of the Mishnah is not Reb Yehuda, it's Reb Shimon. So you'll say, what's the problem? In this, Reb Yehuda holds like Reb Shimon. B'chitei Makula Reb Yehuda, or beprate, and having to say hiskachi each time, like shvu each time. Savalok Reb Shimon, he holds like Reb Shimon. So the Gemara says, but that's the problem. He doesn't hold like Reb Shimon. Umi Savala, does he hold like Reb Shimon that you're only chayiv if you say shvu by each one? Vatanya. So now we're going to have a big machlokes about this shvu business. Zeh haklal. Kolal. If Marshall says shvua that I don't owe anything to any of you, I didn't have a deposit from any of you. That's it. Short shrift. You guys can't believe so many people made such a mistake. Eino chayiv alachas. He's only chayiv 1. Parat. But if he said shvua, I swear that I don't have Marks, I don't have Dr. Blocks, I don't have Aaron's, I don't have Reuven. Even if he didn't say shvua by each one, chayiv al kol achas v'achas. He's chayiv for everyone. Divrei Meir. Rabbi Yehuda, what does Rabbi Yehuda say? Rabbi Yehuda says if he doesn't say an end, then he's chayiv for each one. Rabbi Yehuda shvua loy lach, loy lach, loy lach. If he says I swear not Mark, not Dr. Block, not Aaron, not Ruvain, chayiv al kol achas v'achas. If he would say a vav, a connecting vav, shvua loy lach, viloy lach, viloy lach, then it would be all one shvua. But he left out the vav, so it's separate ones. Yeah, that's what he does. You have to dot your I's and cross your T's. Right? So, but we see that Rabbi Yehuda doesn't hold that he has to say the word shvua by each one. So Rabbi Yehuda surely doesn't hold like Rabbi Shimon. Rabbi Lazar says the key is if you said shvua in the beginning or at the end. Loy lach, loy lach, loy lach, v'loy lach, shvua. If you put shvua at the end and the shvua is going on each and every one, chayiv al kol achas v'achas. Reb Shimon says you have to say shvua by each one. So we see clearly that Reb Yehuda doesn't hold like Reb Shimon. So our Mishnah that says hiskachi by each one, in order that it shouldn't combine, is not going like Reb Yehuda, because Reb Yehuda doesn't hold like Reb Shimon. And if it's not going like Reb Yehuda, then the Reish of the Mishnah that Reish Lakish wanted to say is going according to Reb Yehuda that Ein Shtei Yadayim Zachin Ke'echad, that can't be, because the Sefer is not going like Reb Yehuda, because Reb Yehuda doesn't hold like Reb Shimon. So the Gemara says, no, still Reish Lakish could answer it. Elakula Reb Shimoni. It's all going according to Reb Shimon. It's all going according to Reb Shimon. And Reb Shimon holds like Reb Yehuda by Shlichus that you can't have 2 Yodayim Zachin Kechad. Or by Shlichus, Savalak Reb Yehuda, that you can't have the father and the daughter both at the same time. Well, I told you that this is not a walk in the park. I warned you. I warned you it wasn't a walk in the park. That's why Reb Shlomo Yehuda came. He wanted to see if I'm up to it, right? And I know. He's reporting back to his higher ups. Now, we lost some people here. What happened to Shaya Astrov? Oh, he's here. He's here.
Just an S right now.
He's here.
Still here.
You're here. Okay.
Maybe I'll concentrate this way.
Yeah. The S stands for sh. He just wants me to learn. He doesn't want me to talk about your Frankfurters, Marshall.
You don't realize these dates cost a fortune. They're definitely worth more than a fruit.
You know something? It's not pashut that it's not a pruta. You know the Gemara sings the praises of dates in Masechtas Brachas. The Gemara sings dates are a chashuv of food. Rav Asi loy ol lebei midrash. Rav Asi didn't come one day to the study hall. Now, when studious people didn't miss the day, they want to know what they missed. So Ashkechei Reb Zera, he found Reb Zera. Amalei mai emor idna bei midrash. What did they say today in the Beis Medrash? Amalei. So Reb Zera told them, Afanon loy ayel. I also wasn't able to be there, but like you, I wanted to find out what was going on. So Rav Avin hu da'ayel, Rav Avin went to the Beis Medrash, and v'amar chavrusa kula k'Reb Yochanan, and he said that the entire think tank of the Beis Medrash, said like Reb Yochanan, that by Gerushin, both the father and the daughter can accept the get. V'tzavich Reish Lakish ki kruchya, and Reish Lakish screamed like a crane. That's a type of bird. He screamed like a crane. What do you mean? V'yotzav ha'haisa. We should make a hekish yotzav ha'haisa that just like by Gerushin, it's the father and the daughter. So also by Kiddushin, it should be the father and the daughter. V'leka da'ashkechbei, and nobody accepted his argument. Amalei, so this is a monumental thing that they decided like Reb Yochanan. So Rav Asi asked Reb Zera, Rabbi Avin bar Samchu, could we rely on Rabbi Avin? Amalei, so he says, yes, for certain. You know why? If it would be a while after, maybe he forgot what was said. But I heard it from him right away. Kiminyama letigne. It's like a fresh fish that went straight from the water into the frying pan. I got it right after the shear, so it's surely reliable. Now the Gemara says, and we see how exact is the transmission. Amar Rav Nachman Yitzchak says, Anan loy Rabbi Avin b'Rabbi Chia. I did not hear that it was Reb Avin, the son of Rabbi Chia. V'loy Rabbi Avin bar Kahana. In other words, Ella Rabbi Avin Stam. I don't know which Rabbi Avin was. There are different sages, Rabbi Avin. There's Rabbi Avin Bar Reb Chia, there's Rabbi Avin Rav Kahana. Says the Gemara, well, we heard the report. We know the dictum. What's the difference which Rabbi Avin it is? Says the Gemara, Lamai Nafkamina. Oh, there is an Nafkamina. But because in the course of our learning, we have to know if we hear another statement from Rabbi Avin Bar Kahana, then we would have a contradiction. We have to know which Rabbi Avin is. Lamirma didei adidei. We have to know in case we find a contradictory statement, is it a contradiction or not? So it's important to know which Rabbi Avin it is. Okay. Again, I'm going to stop and see if anybody has a question. Okay. I usually don't do this, but this Gemara is a little bit more challenging than the. I'm very glad that it's being recorded on Kol Lashon. There was no daf here. Wow. By minei Rava mi Rav Nachman. Rava inquired of Rav Nachman. As we turn to Mem Daled Amud Beis. Nara mao shetas shliach lekabel gito miyad baila. We said that a Nara could accept her own get. Can she make a shliach to accept her own get? Now, the Gemara understands now that while she's a Nara, even though we hold that she could accept her own get, because since it's done against her will anyway, so we say she could accept her own get. But the Gemara understands now she's not a free agent. She's still acting in some capacity. She's still acting in some capacity as a extension of her father. But the Gemara says there's two ways to look at the lumdus. She could be an extension of the yad of her father, or she could be like the chotzer of her father. If she's a chotzer of her father, then she can't make a shliach to accept the get, because a chotzer can't make a shliach. If she's like the yad of her father, so she's an extension of the father, then she can make a shliach. So let's see that inside here. Again, Nara mao shetasa shliach lekabel gita miyad baila. Do we say kiyada v'yadamya, that she's like the hand of her father, an extension of the father? Or is she like the courtyard of the father? Kiyada v'yadamya, is she like an extension of her father? Then ma'al v'ya mashvei shliach, just like the father can make a shliach. Afinami mashvei shliach, she could also make a shliach. Oidilma kechatzer v'yadamya, she's like the courtyard of the father. V'adamatya gita liyada, and until the get reaches her hand, by migrisha, she's not divorced. In other words, she's not divorced when it's put in the hands of the shliach. So now I want to introduce you something about chotzer. Let's say Sarah is an adult, and her husband Chatzkel wants to divorce her. So the din is he could divorce her by putting the get in her hand. He could divorce her by putting the get in the hand of her shliach. He could also divorce her by putting the get in a chotzer hamishtameres, in a guarded courtyard of hers. That's all good. However, let's say Sarah has her own eved. And the eved is watched. The din is that Chatzkel cannot give her eved the get. So you'll say, why not? Sarah has an Eved Tony that belongs to her, and he's watched. Why then isn't that a Chatzah Mishtameres? There's a legality that the Chatzah has to be completely under her mind. Tony has a mind of its own. So he can't work as a Chatzah. Can't work as a Shliach either, because an Eved can't be a Shliach because he's not bedin getting the Kiddushin. So therefore now the Gemara says, what was the Havamina that the girl the Nara, should be able to accept the get because he's a Chatzar of the father? Since she has her independent das, it wouldn't acquire as the Chatzar of the father. That's the Gemara's question now. Let's see the Gemara inside. Umi mesafkele l'Ravaha. Could Rava have had a doubt that when a Nara accepts the get, she's accepting it in the guise of the Chatzar of her father? Va'amar Rava kasav get. If Chatzka writes a get, v'nosna biyad avda, and gives it to an adult Sarah's Eved. If Tony is Yoshan, is sleeping, umishamartai, and she's guarding him, how is a get? Why? Because since he's sleeping, he doesn't have an independent das. Near, but if he's awake, even if she's watching him, ain't a get. Now, near amai ain't a get. Why if he's awake? Why if Tony is awake? Why isn't it a get? Tony belongs to Sarah. Because that's a courtyard that's operating not solely with her mind. The Eved has a mind of his own. The Isal Kedaita Kechatzer Aviyah, if you're going to say that the Nara is like the Chatzer of her father, Kimata Gita Liyada, even if the get gets to her hand, Nami Loy Tigarish. Why? Because it's a Chatzer that's not under the father's complete control. The Haviyah Chatzer Mishtamer Shaloi Ladata. She has her own independent mind. Rather, it must be that when she accepts the get, she's an extension of the yad of the father. So if she's extension of the yad of the father, then why shouldn't she be able to make a shliach? Just like the father makes a shliach, she should be able to make a shliach. Says the Gemara, "V'hachi kamebayle." Mi alima kiyad aviyah, is she a strong enough extension of the father, l'shavya ihi shliach, that she too should be able to make a shliach? Aylai. Or perhaps she's not such a strong extension of the father. She's a limited extension of the father. Amalei, so the Gemara now conclusively decides this. Ein isa shliach. She cannot make a shliach. Dalia, would it be too hard to bring me a cup of water? Sorry to bother you. While Gedalia is bringing me a cup of water, there's no cups. Wow, it's 39 minutes. We're already 3/4 this daf. I'm telling you, Rabbi Yisai, we're doing good. We're really having kvitzas haderech. It took me a lot longer than that to prepare the daf. Eisvei Kitana she'amra hiskabli giti, a minor that says except for me a get, ain't a get achi a get liyad. Minor that says except for me a get, it's not a get until the get reaches her hand. Hanara, implication is, but if a nara says except for me the get, how is that get? This is contrary to what we just said, that a nara cannot make a shliach. He says, yeah, that's talking about with his no father. Oh, if there's no father, then she's in the rishus of her own, so then she can make a shliach. Says the Gemara, but Hamidikatani Seifa, since it says in the Seifa, Im Amar Aviyat Seiva Kibul Get Labiti, if the father tells Marshall, go accept the get for my daughter, and the husband, Chatzkel, gives to Marshall the get, Imratza Balazabai, if Chatzkel wants to retract before the get gets to the father, lo yazer, because the father could make a shliach, and once the get reaches the hand of the shliach, once it goes into the hands of Marshall, no backsies. So since the Sefer is talking about where there is a father, Michlal de Reisha b'diyesh la'avaskin, and that the Reisha is also talking about where there's a father, and still you see that if she's a Nara, thank you very much, if she's a Nara, she could make a shliach. Says the Gemara, no. There's something missing in the text over here. Excuse me. Chesurei mechzera. There's something missing in the text over here. V'achi ketani, and this is the way you have to read it. Ketana shamri is kabali giti. A ketana that says, except from my get, she can't make a shliach at all. Ain't a get at shiagi get liyada. It's not a get until the get reaches her hand. Ha nara, if she's a nara, harizeh get. But even a nara, when can she make a shliach? That's only if there's no father. So then she's under her own control. Then she can't make the shliach. If the father makes a shliach, the Amar Aviyah, and the father says, Marshall, accept the get on behalf of my daughter, say v'kibel labiti gita, and the husband Chatzkel gives the get to Marshall, and then he wants to back out before the get gets back to the father, writes about Lazar, can't back out anymore, because once he already gave the get to Marshall was a shliach l'Kabbalah, the divorce happens right then, no backsies. Now,
can I add something on this?
Yes.
Thing before we go to the next?
Yeah.
Why didn't the Gemara just prove it? Because if it's a katana, there's a father. Katana doesn't have a yad. There has to be. She can't accept her get when there's a father. There's no halacha that a katana could accept her get when there's father around.
That's true. That's true. That's another reason. The Gemara didn't get to that reason, but that's true. Now, Itmar. Ketana shenisgacha sheloi l'das aviyah. Get a load of this. This is going to be a very interesting Gemara. Here we have Sarala is 9. She accepts Kiddushin from Chatzkel. She really likes him. You know, a 9-year-old, she's a precocious 9-year-old. And yeah, precocious 9-year-old. And she really likes Chatzkel. And she accepts Kiddushin from him without the approval of the father. Amar Shmuel, listen to the psak of the Gadol Adar. Amar Shmuel, tzricha get v'tzricha miyan. She needs both a get and miyan. Now, at first glance, this psak sounds mystifying. Get is and miyan are mutually exclusive. Miyan is where the father was either dead, or he's out of the picture because she was already married and divorced. Once she's married and divorced, she's out of the rishus of the father. Then if she gets rabbinically married, she could walk away from the marriage with a mere refusal. That's called miyan. Since she's only a minor, she can walk, she doesn't need a get, she walks away with a mere refusal. Get is where it was a solid Kiddushin. Then you need a get. So to say you need get and mian sounds preposterous. It's not preposterous because Shmuel says it. But right away, Karna retorts, Dvarim begav. There seems to be over here an internal contradiction. It doesn't seem to work, because like I told you, mian and kiddushin are mutually exclusive. Im get lama mian, im mian lama get. So Amrulay, they said to Karna, look, Hamar Ukva Beidina Kafri. We're near Mar Ukva and his bezdin. Mar Ukva is a big Talmud Chacham. Let's ask him. At the end, they decided to send it to Rav. And what they did is they knew that Rav would be partial to Shmuel, so they switched the opinion. They wanted to see, they made Shmuel's opinion Karna's opinion, and Karna's opinion Shmuel's opinion. Of Chua and Shadru l'kamei de Rav. So Rav sided like Shmuel's original opinion. Amalahu, he said, in such a case where a Ketana accepted Kiddushin without the approval of the father, Ha'elikim, by God, tzricha get v'tzricha mian. You need a get and mian. Now, since they switched that around and had Shmuel saying not that way, Rav was right away suspicious. And he says, V'chos lei lazare da Abba Barabba, and Hashem should have mercy on the seed of Abba Barabba, that's Shmuel's father, the name Hachi, that he should say, not like that. So he basically sided like Shmuel, that you need a get and you need mian. Now, this whole thing sounds like fantasy. Since when could the girl do it without the approval of the father? So the Gemara will say it's talking about where there was already shidduchei. That means there was already an arrangement with the father. There was a shotgun, and the shotgun spoke to the father, and the father says he likes this idea. So therefore there's a reason to say that the father would approve. So says the Gemara, let's see it inside. V'taima mai, Amar Rav Acha b'rei de Ravika tzricha get. She needs a get because maybe the father will approve it. Shemen itzratza of b'kiddushin. On the other hand, there is a possibility the father doesn't approve. And then the Kiddushin is nothing. But if we're going to necessitate a get, then here's the problem. If we're going to necessitate a get, there's a worry that maybe, I told you this precocious child liked Chatzkel. Chatzkel found that she had an older sister. So he says, she's a baby. He gave Kiddushin to the older sister. When he sees that they needed a get, he'll think that the Kiddushin is nothing. Because he can't be Mekadosh one sister if you're already Mekadosh the other sister. The fact that they needed a get would make him think, the Kiddushin I gave to the older sister is nothing. Because since they make me have a get from the Ketana, that means when I was Mekadosh the older one, it's nothing, because it can't be Mekadosh Achlis Ishtay. But in reality, he does have to worry about the Kiddushin to the sister, because maybe the father is not masking. And then with the Kiddushin would be good. So therefore, tzricha miyan, they necessitated miyan. Miyan is only necessary if there really isn't a Kiddushin. To make the chassim know that there's a possibility that the Kiddushin with the Katana wasn't good, and if he was Mekadosh at the same time, the sister, he's going to need to have a get from that. Shemaloi nitzrasa b'Kiddushin. And if we didn't need the miyan via Oimru, they would say, ain't Kiddushin Taisim B'achaisa, that the Kiddushin doesn't work with the sister. So therefore, in order to let people know that there's two sides to the coin, it might be a Kiddushin, it might not be Kiddushin, we needed Kiddushin and miyan. And here the Gemara says, Amar Rav Nachman, v'hu sheshatchu. The only reason why we say that maybe the father would be maskim is, why should we be worried about 9-year-old accepts Kiddushin? Maybe the father would want it. It's talking about where the father had already talked to the shadchan and said he liked the idea. Ula Amar, afilu miyan ein tzricha. A 9-year-old's action is nothing. You don't need Kiddushin, you don't need miyan. So the Gemara says, Afal gav the shitku? Would he hold this even if the father already agreed to the idea? Says the Gemara, no. Man the masneiha, the one who taught this, loy masneiha, the one who taught that even miyan doesn't need, didn't teach that it's talking about shitku. In other words, Shmuel, Ula was learning that Shmuel said it even without any arrangement. Without any prior arrangement, Ula said we're not worried about it at all. Ikad Amrei, there's another version. Amar Ula says categorically, Ketana sheniskacha shaloi l'das aviyah, a ketana that gets mekudeshes by chatzka without the approval of the father, even if there was a shidduch, but Lamai says there was an approval of the father, afilu miyan ein tzricha. So now, according to this second opinion of Ula, that there's never going to be a case where the father is alive and she accepted Kiddushin independent of him. There's never a case of miyan. Then we're going to have a problem with a Gemara in Yomi. Now we're really getting into the soup now. So let me give you, in the Mishnah Yomi, we're getting there soon. In the Mishnah Yomi, we're getting to Yomi. It's going to be fun.
No rest for the weary.
Baruch Hashem. Baruch Hashem. In the first Mishnah in Yomi, one of the harder Mishnayos in Shas, we learn about Soras Erva. What happens is really a simple case. Reuven and Shimon are brothers. Shimon has a daughter, Sarah. Reuven is allowed to marry his niece. And that's what Reuven does. Reuven marries his niece. Right? Shimon's daughter, his brother's daughter, is his niece. So Reuven marries his niece. So Reuven marries Sarah. And as a good man, before the Cherem D'Rabbeinu Gershom, he has another wife, Dinah. So Reuven is married to Sarah and Dinah, maybe because he has more than one wife, he dies. Not easy to take care of two wives. And he might have had three even. Sarah, Dinah, and Yoel. And it just was too much for his heart, and he died childless. So the din is that Shimon is pater from Yibam and Chalitza on any of the wives. Why? Because since Sarah falls to him, and obviously he can't marry his own daughter, so he doesn't have a mitzvah on Sarah, and the din is that the co-wives, since they're a tsaras erva, they're a co-wife of a forbidden relationship, they're also potter from Yibam and Chalitza. So that's the background. Again, let's just get this solid. Ruvain and Shimon are brothers. Shimon has a daughter, Sarah, and Ruvain marries his niece, Sarah. He has two other wives, Dinah and Yoel. Then Ruvain dies childless. Shimon doesn't have to do Yibam or Chalitza to any of the wives. Why? Because Sarah is his daughter, and on a daughter you can't do Yibam. You can't be Miyabim your own daughter. And we learn out that just like the daughter is exempt from Yibam, so the tsaras of the erva are also exempt from Yibam. Now, in the first Mishnah in Yavamas, it says, however, if before Ruvain dies, Sarah died, or Sarah got divorced, or, and here it comes, or Sarah did miyun, then when Ruvain dies, Shimon has to be miyabim, either Dinah or Yoel, because they're not Sarah's erva anymore, because Shimon had already divorced the daughter. Shimon had already divorced Sarah, or Sarah died, or, and this is where our Gemara comes in, or Sarah did miyun. Ouch. How could Sarah do miyun? We said, if when Sarah married Ruvain, Shimon, the father, gave her over, he was mekadesh her to his brother, then miyun wouldn't be enough. You need a get. So it must be that she was mekadesh without the approval of her father. And you see, you need miyun. Let's see it inside. Says the Gemara, most of Rav Kahana, the Kulan, all of these ervas, in Mesu, if they die, so if the daughter dies, Sarah dies, or miyanu, or refused, or niskashu, or got divorced, or she nimtza islandless, so she was found to be incapable of having children, so it's a mekach tois, then Sarah's saying mitarais, then Shimon could be miyabim, Dino or Yoel, because they're not Sarah's erva anymore. Now it says that Sarah did miyun. The Kitchaman, who was Mekadesh Sarah to Ruvain. Ilema the Kitcha Aviyah, if Shimon was accepted the Kiddushin that she should be married to his brother, then miyun is not enough. Then it's a regular Kiddushin Derais, it needs a get. B'miyun Sagila, get Ma'al boy, it needs a get. Elalav the Kitcha Iyanavsha, it must be that she was Mekadesh without her father's approval. Oh. And it says over here, and it can't be that she's an Arab, because if she's an Arab, miyun wouldn't be good. So it must be a Ketana. So you see a Ketana that does it without the approval of the father can do miyun. The Ketani debai miyun. Says the Gemara, no, it's, you know what it's talking about. Who ma'isiv love, who mafarik, he asked the question and he answers it. The plot thickens. What happened over here is that this Sarah, she's 9, but beforehand she was already married to Shmerel. And Shmerel died. And therefore she's what's called the Yesoima B'chaya Aviyah. She's already out of the rishus of the father. Oh, if she's out of the rishus of the father, then she could have her mother or her brother be Mekadesh her, and then she needs miyun. She was out of the control of the father. There, that's different. If she's out of the control of the father, because she was already married and her husband died, fully married, and her husband died, or she got divorced, so now she's out of the rishus of the father. Then if her mother or her brother marries her off, then she needs miyun. And that's the case of miyun. Whoa. This was a hard daf.
Why can't you just say that the father died?
What?
Why do we want to say that the father is still alive?
Because it's talking about Shimon. He's the one that's being miyabim. That's the guns. That's the guns. Shimon is alive because he's the one that's being miyabim. Okay, yeah, I noticed that. Although I had the same question initially. Okay, Rabbi Isai, I will tell to our DAF listeners, some out there in the wild blue yonder of Kalaloshin and TurnAnytime.com and YouTube, that we do not yet have a sponsor for the Sukkah Shir. The first Sukkah Shir of the year, it's actually the first Shir after Yom Kippur. We don't have a sponsor yet. 718-916-3100, rmmwsi@aol.com. And we will learn the Mishnah Yomis now.